Hello and welcome back to a live edition of Supercoach Insider. My name is Ben.
And I'm Chris.
I'm Swizz.
Hey yo.
And thank you for joining us. It's a Sunday night special. I think probably the only time we've ever gone live on a Sunday night. And
This is not our OnlyFans account either.
no, and
What? It's news to me.
and here I was thinking it would be a celebration of what a wonderful weekend of football, and it was shit. Like, it was so
Well,
bad.
I guess it would be shit if you guys lost your games, but the Pies won. So I don't know. How was that, Swiss, for you, mate? Was it good?
Have no idea what you're talking about. Thursday, that's the whole world ago.
Nice.
No, but you did well beating our reserve side, so
Thanks,
no
mate.
credit to the Pies.
Just scraped through,
Yeah,
really.
just
with
scra-
you.
just scraped through.
25 behinds or something stupid.
Yeah, there's these guys who have been playing, seconds and under 18s footy and had to actually get the record to find out who was buddy playing in our side. But
Fair enough. I like it.
Crazy. Before we move on, though, SC Insider 100, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok, all the audio platforms as well, Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, you name it. And on the YouTube, please do like, subscribe. This is live, probably coming to you faster than ever. And we plan to pretty much then export this out to an MP3 and put it on the line for all the audio platforms as well. But if you are here, please do, like, subscribe, get amongst it, and feel free to use those buttons and shout us out and let us know what your biggest issue was this week.
Yep.
Who your biggest issue was this week, whether it's Darcy Cameron, LDU, Chandler on the bench, Baker on the bench with no E, 2 loopholes. Let us know what the biggest issue was this week, because we're pretty much about to unpack it all as well. So, and if you're in the chat on the live, please let us know who's there so we can actually have a look and shout out as well. Boys, I don't even know where we start apart from how bad were some of the games and how bad were some of the premium scores this week.
It was a bit of a strange weekend, I think, overall, because it was sort of a back to realization that not everything runs perfectly, and definitely not Supercoach, but definitely AFL in general. I was rolling along first couple of rounds. Oh, this is it. This Supercoach thing's pretty easy. Hey boys, and then all of a sudden you make one wrong move and bang, the whole season could be crumbled. So I was one of those ones that traded out Wits to Darcy Cameron, only to suffer that looks like a high grade MCL. I think 4 to 6 minimum is what they're looking at there. So
6 to 8 even, yeah.
Yeah, so that sucks. So he's gone. So you sort of got to reevaluate. But the only good thing about that was that it was like 3/4 time and he was already on 89. So I suppose it's very silver lining is that at least it didn't completely capitulate. And he had a low break even, so he's actually made cash. But that doesn't really save me. But
I would join you, and it's funny because I think I try and be polite. Someone's just like, "Oh, why would you do that?" Because Wits is averaging more, and I was just like, "And that's why no one will remember your name." A nice little Troy.
I love that.
Yeah, I was like,
did that so much.
So pretty much I was talking to Swizz as well, and years gone by, I've kind of gone with sometimes I react too late. I'm a bit reactionary, whereas this year I thought, if you're going to win it and you're going to really make a charge, using Darcy Cameron, who's quite low in price, as someone who I can then open up and unlock my ruck line, it was pretty much that was the idea.
Pause. Supercoach is open.
yeah,
lads.
I was just looking. That's open. That's what I'm looking at right there. And I'm pretty happy with my score.
I don't want to look.
Well, I'm happy, 2177, and I look down and I'm like, I've lost 951 spots. I'm like, hang on.
Okay,
hang on.
that's not too bad. That's not too bad.
But I'm thinking actually I scored half decent this week, and it's like, nope.
Swizz, sorry, I didn't give a shit about you.
Yeah,
I'm looking at my rank, and
yeah,
I'm like,
what
that's
is your-
not that bad.
yeah, what is your rank?
I went from 1,000 to 5,000, and considering the week I
Yeah,
had,
well, I'm
that's not too bad.
5,000 as well, so.
Okay, twins.
Twins. I
I'm
like it.
still in the top 2,000 guys, but I guess that's what happens when you when you trade out with.
How'd Liverpool go against Man City this week, mate? How'd that go?
I had a great engagement party last night, guys. So
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
It was absolutely off the charts. It was a great
Should we do
night.
a little reach
Yeah,
around here?
we'll do
Reach
this,
around. Up over here.
cheers.
Get in there.
Over the
Yeah,
camera.
good in.
Chin, chin, chin.
Yes, cheers.
Yeah, so congratulations to Chris. And Chris, I can
And
tell you
Eliza.
why.
Did you
and
see
Eliza.
that subject change? That was good, mate. That's
So I can tell you why you're still in the top 2K, and it's because everyone joined us for Setters and
that's true. Yeah, their downfall. They
and
ruined it.
Seaball. So they joined us, and they didn't perform for the 1 week, and that's probably why it mitigated a little bit.
It was interesting because after we've doing some shots last night, and then Chris just like turned to me. So what actually happened in Supercoach today? I'm like, well, LDU pulled out, and then Supercoach crashed, and Chris is just losing his mind at the bar because obviously you were running around doing a whole lot of stuff yesterday and probably didn't see that much footy.
For
So
a long time, I didn't get to see a single game on Saturday, which obviously Saturday is like secret football. And so, I ran into Swizz at the engagement party. I'm like, tell me everything.
yeah, I'm sitting there doing shots with you and your dad, and and then it's just like, oh, guess what happened today?
Yeah, and so crazy day. I mean, let's go through some of those scores. I mean, we obviously from the Thursday night game.
All the way back then.
Don't go back to Thursday
honestly,
night. Can I celebrate the fact that daylight savings has ended? Because
Thank God.
up here though, 6:20 game.
Yeah, it's like
and
smack bang in the middle
I've got to
of
like do
everything.
dinner for the family, bath time, feed, and then the missus is like, "Why are you looking at your phone?" I'm like, "I'm trying to see ins and outs." I missed the first quarter of footy, and then I get there, and because I sort of reversed my trades with the whole, I was thinking Darcy Cameron and everything else going on, so I didn't even have the E on Baker. I was like, oh, no big loss, it's fine, we'll just see. And next minute, he's just absolutely popping off.
Yep.
And I was going to get rid of Hopper at that point, so now I'm like, I kind of feel like I have to get rid of him now because everyone's banking like 90 points, making moves.
So did you end up trading him?
I kept Hopper, and I end up loopholing, and I went with Chandler. So it actually worked out. I was
that's
only
all
5
right.
points off.
Nice, that's pretty good.
My week was looking extremely dismal up until that point, and I will be hanging shit on myself in my team pod this week. So it's going to be interesting.
Look forward to it. Yeah, I think we've all got pretty good team pods coming up this week, so we'll probably record them, I guess, tomorrow evening or something like that. But I think the biggest takeaway from this is that Bevo just Magneto again. And I looked at the CBAs, and Treloar all of a sudden had 80% CBAs, and you're like, what? Because he hasn't had that. I don't think he had that at all last year. McRae still scored like fairly decent, but he only had 40% CBA, so he's dropping like absolutely. You can't hold McRae, even though he obviously had a good score.
Good game.
Timmy English.
Oh, he looks so good though. And I told you, it's in last year when we had him and I was already watching him heavily before people kind of traded him in. He looks better.
Yeah.
Like, he's getting around the ground, and that was part of the reason why I went Cameron, because I was like, I've got Witts, and I've got Marshall, who I thought was going to be good value. I kind of now wish I got rid of Marshall and kept Witts based off the weekend's performance. But, look, I think English is the clear number one. It's about whether, if you're banking on him to be an injury risk, or get injured, then that's one scenario. But if he stays fit, I reckon he's about 10 points clear of the next best, and it's scary.
Problem is is that he's not a traditional ruckman in the sense of lumbers around, long contest down the line. Like he's running up for little short hit ups from a kick in, and they're kicking it to him. Like, because obviously the ruckman's that's not where he's going to be able to defend the ball. So you see Timmy English just running up into the arc to catch a lead up hit up, and then he bombs it long. And I'm like, I hate you so much. Like, it's 3 points. He's getting just all these 3 points just for stupid.
But he's getting around the ground a lot better than I ever thought.
Obviously, the problem is that when he does, and he will get injured, can you risk that? Because I suppose everyone's now looking for a solution. So there really is two, of course. There's Timmy English, there's probably three. You could really go up to.
I need to check if I have enough money, because that was the big Bryce
Well,
Mitchell.
actually, I was just checking that because there's actually 3 rucks in the top 7 right now. So English is the overall number 1 scorer in the game.
Yep.
At 1. Jared Witch is at number 5, and and Nank is at 7.
Really?
So you're saying I got rid of the number 5?
What
You got rid of the number 5.
What about Flynn Sanity? Where's he at? Because did he have another good week?
Well, I'm sorting that by total points, but I'm sure Flynn's
$400 up my sleeve. I can go
Nice.
and fix
Single
it.
trade.
Darcy Cameron to English. Bye-bye. Done.
Fair enough.
Done
And
in
look,
one.
I suppose a worst case scenario with an English in trade for those that either had Darcy Cameron or whatever it may be, is that at least now you're with the crowd. So you don't, even if he does go down, it's probably not that much of a worry. Anyone else that you try and trade to, every week you're going to be looking at English and going, shit, everybody's got English and he's going 150 or whatever the hell it is.
I think he's going from 19% owned to like 50 to 60.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be that high where that's kind of why with the rationale, I slept easy. Obviously, it was a decision I made. It backfired. He got injured first game up. I'm like, that happens. But now I'm like, okay, well, now I can actually go and get who I believe to be the best ruck.
Yep.
And I think he's going to be highly owned, whereas Witts will be 10 to 15%.
Yep.
See, but for me, I'm thinking Marshall's hitting the scrap heap. and I'll keep Witts because Witts, he didn't play that well today. I've watched him these last 2 matches. I'm going, okay, yeah, he was good around the ground, but he didn't really impose himself on the contest like he could, and he's still going 120. So I'm feeling like he's going to actually, especially like Took wasn't even that great today. So when they start really clicking, and then they get a couple easy kills, the Suns, Witts is going to be freaking awesome.
Yeah. Look, there's a few things. The other thing is obviously Darcy. Like, are you trading Darcy? Are you not? Obviously, had a fairly good week this week, and we knew that going into it.
Oh, I said trade before this week. I knew he was going well this week. I said, but if you keep him, he's going to do well, and you're going to keep him for another month. You're going, and
I absolutely agree with you.
I would have got rid of him. I would have said, get out of my side because I know you're going well this week, and I'm going to feel like I'm forced to keep you, and there's going to be 4 more weeks, and then I'm going to bitch and moan again, and then get rid of you then.
Darcy does this to people. This is pretty standard for Darcy. So yeah, I mean, I'm still on the trade bandwagon, but at least he hasn't lost you too much money, obviously, with his good score. Now, also that Western Bulldogs game. Can we talk about Marcus Bontempelli's triple-double? And what I'm talking about is triple-double with turnovers.
And how many free kicks against? 5?
6
frees against.
And what's that, -4?
Yeah.
3?
So yeah. So obviously, and every time there's a turnover or inefficient disposal, he was clear best on ground in my opinion. He basically, put them on his back and just willed them across the line. However, his score obviously didn't reflect that. There was one point I think he was up to 97 and then dropped back right down to like 85 or something stupid. Like it was just yo-yoing all over the place because of his inefficiency, which is, I want to say uncharacteristic, but he has this in him because he obviously is one that tries those kicks and tries to do more than he probably should. There's one point where he's tried to pinpoint a pass, just gone straight into an intercept possession. I'm just like, oh, what are you trying to do? But at the end of the day, I was probably happy with it because I know a lot of people had the VC on him and I went VC Dunkley. So I was sort of hedging against that.
I felt so good. I think it was quarter time, even towards halftime. I'm sitting there like doing mini fist pumps to myself going, yeah, what a great decision. Bontempelli going big this week. Yeah, and I thought he was very imposing. It just didn't quite click. Yep. And even with Doherty, it's like, hey, it's so much ball, but these mistakes, it's like, do you just put that down to early season? Because I think they're quality enough where it will click. And when it does, then it's 130, 140, 150, and they'll kind of get you in the back end. Binger, send me a soundbite, mate, so I can check your voice and see if it's good for radio. On our end of season pod last year, I did tell him we could get him on, but obviously things were a bit chaotic.
Nice
to start this year, and
so a couple of questions firing through, guys. We will get to now. So, Fried Monkey has thrown in. He's got JHF, and he wants to know: should he be looking to try and get Zeeble because he doesn't have a Zeeble, or should he, with a solid outing this week, is JHF a hold?
Yeah, well, this was a big discussion I had with the wife because she's so big on Horn Francis in the team, and he scored 25 of those out of the 84 and 3/4. I think he might have had 59 in the second quarter, like completely dominated. But there's footage around again of him just not chasing and putting in when he did. So there's no two-way running from him at all. And it's a massive concern. So when they're up and about, fine, he's going to be awesome. But I just don't want that in the side. So
he's a downhill skier.
Well, there's no two-way running. It's he gets one flight out of North Melbourne and doesn't look back. There's no two-way about him at all.
I've heard there's no ice bars in Adelaide.
So, yeah. And the problem is, like, a lot of us, we're going to have
Zeeble. It's a wine bath.
And Zeeble, like, didn't score as well as he normally does. But that was because him and Sicily were butchering that ball early. They were practically playing kick to kick, bombing the ball back and forward to each other with the turnovers. And then both of them, got into the game and did their thing. So realistically, Zeeble, that could have been another 90 to 100 games. So I think that's the one you definitely need.
Well, I look at the North's team on the day and they didn't have their 2 best players in the midfield. So obviously Simpkin and LDU. That's why they lost the game. They ended up going with Cunnington and Powell as their main midfielders, and they just couldn't compete. Both of them scored fairly poorly, and they just got killed around the ball. Unfortunate for North. I think that they probably should have won that game. That's one that they will rue that they lost. But personnel.
Well, if they had LDU, exactly then everything.
Right.
That was absolutely anarchy because. It was like, okay, it came out and all the April Fool's jokes kind of just left people going, oh, it's just another joke. And there's like, no, it's legit. Like they're actually saying laid out. And even I tried to hop on my phone and I actually thought, oh, LDU's gone. I'm going to try and maybe bring in Warple. He's going 130 today. So I was like, yeah, let's do this. Callahan to Warple. I'll figure the rest out later. and then it was like not working, and then I hopped on and actually logged in through the web browser, and then I was like, I just thought I'll probably best to sit on it. And Chris got saved, I think, by Cameron being out. You're like, I need the money, so you didn't bring in Warple, so you avoided that one.
Yeah. So what actually happened, guys, was I was thinking on the Friday night, I was so tired and so stressed because obviously Saturday is the big day and the big proposal, and I had a lot to do pretty much all day. So I had a really half decent sleep, and I went to the gym in the morning, and I was in the car at the front, and I was actually I was texting Pistol from Dr. Supercoach, and I was just going, dude, what am I going to do here? I got Warple, like we got to look at how I'm going to get money to get English. I'm like, I don't want to be doing that next week. I don't want to be trying to trade out say Liam Jones to Tyler Young to try and get money to go to somewhere. You're completely butchering your team to be able to do that. And then I was like, oh look, I could probably just go Grundy, and that's actually one of the questions, which is from Aaron Miller. He said Cameron to Grundy, which is it's a valid question this week. And I think a lot of people will sideways. I think that is the second option of the two that we've discussed.
And at least for the next however many weeks, a month or so, Grundy will probably get a little bit of an upswing.
Huge upswing.
Yeah,
he'll make cash. He'll be at 600 and something K, and then you could probably sideways him over to English if you really want to.
Yeah, and then reassess at that point. I don't mind that as a strategy.
Or maybe switch to Gawn, but there'll be a 2 or 3 game block there where Grundy's scoring is going to drop off the map, and you can't really pick up Gawn because he's 620K and dropping. So
correct. It's going to be the
That's what I
tie over
thought.
period. So you might have to go from say him to try and get an English then for maybe less cash, and then wait for Gawn to drop out, and then see if Marshall's a spud option.
Yeah, so eventually I thought about that, and I'm like, no, you can't get Grundy, because although his price is all right and he's going to have a short-term impact, you're literally going to hold him for those 2 games, and that could kill you. I don't want to be holding Grundy in those games where he goes back forward. I don't want to be doing that. And he's not going to get forward status until, at the very earliest, if he even does, it won't be till round 12.
And that's relying on Gawn playing enough. Yeah,
Exactly.
and I think with Gawn being injured, it's kind of hurt both of them as far as getting a possible DPP, which then makes it more important to pick up. That's why Darcy Cameron was actually a good option, because we're like, hey, there's not many DPPs coming through.
Exactly.
Even Petrarca, I think, is still getting a good amount of CBAs, so I don't know if he's going to get DPP. Maybe when they play weaker opponents, there could definitely be an option. Also, shout out to Chris as well. I can't say your last name, but he did say he brought in Warple, and he's got Callahan to deal with, so I feel you there as well. So he's like, I'm going to trade out Callahan. He goes, I don't know who to, but I can't wait to not watch another GWS game ever again.
We said it in the back end of the podcast last week, roll is king at the end of the day. Right? So that's what we knew about Callahan. Holding him was a risk always.
It's frustrating.
It's a frustrating risk.
Because we spoke about it. I think it was maybe round 1, the really hot day that Laird didn't perform. And we're like, GWS, how smart. They just kept playing in the shade. It's like, no, that's actually how they played. Because I'm watching it, and quarter 1, Callahan gets 6 touches, and he's like, oh, okay, looking all right. Quarter 2, nothing, because GWS used the exact same side of the field, which means that Callahan's now on the opposite side.
Yeah.
And then quarter 3, he gets some ball as well, but then butchers it, and then all of a sudden, obviously, that's where he stayed and got 34. And I'm sitting there going, GWS just playing one side, and it was just so frustrating. So not only is he an outside winger player, but he's only getting half a game.
Yeah,
so
exactly right.
you're relying on someone to get you 70 in half a game. So that's 2 35-point quarters. It's not going to happen.
Said, it's all right if you're the attacking wingman, but if you're only the attacking wingman for 50% of the game, what sort of role is that?
Exactly. It's really poor play. The only option is to kind of hold and wait for maybe a couple of looser opponents.
Yep. So my option then was, after evaluating that option, is okay, I'm cancelling. Once I cancelled Grundy out, I realised I need to get money, and I need to get 100. I don't even know what it was. It would have been 120 grand. I think it was 130 grand.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So the only way to do that was to not trade Warple. So I basically traded English to Cameron, and I've obviously got the cash to go Philippou to Warple. And I was like, well, if I just don't trade Philippou to Warple, I have the cash, and I save the boost and the trade. So that's what I decided to do, obviously to the detriment of my team for the 1 week, but it'll be better next week. And then I obviously played Philippou on field, which was a mistake because I probably should have played Chandler, and that's me for knowing that. But I mean, rookie roulette, who knows what you're going to do. So unfortunately, I didn't get Warple, but that's a good thing because, again, role seems to have flipped. Huge shift in the Hawks, and I wanted to touch on this. CBAs have absolutely flipped at the Hawks, and I don't know if this is going to be the new Bevo, where every week is different CBAs because of different matchups, but Will Day for the second week in a row has had over 65% CBAs, and he absolutely had a blinder of a day out. So a huge watch. Like if you've got him, great. Like all the good talk out of Hawthorn is that Will Day is that what they're looking at going forward, and crazy but awesome.
Yeah, so that was the one I spoke about last week because on Footy Classified, Sam Mitchell came in and talked about Will Day.
Yep.
He was the one that he singled out. That so once he, if the coach is actually making a point of a particular player, there's no reasons why not to think that's going to be going forward. So Warple still had 13 CBAs, but they're definitely, Nash the bigger body, and they, trying to get McKenzie in there as much as possible. But there's only the 4 this week. But
he's dropped to 57%.
Yeah.
When the week 1 he was 71. Last 2 he's just been over 50%, about 55% both weeks.
Hey, Swizz, who was best on ground that game? Do you know?
For which game?
Hawthorn.
Hawthorn. Who was best on ground?
I'm surprised you didn't take the first opportunity.
Oh, no, I know.
The
Sorry.
first opportunity you could have had.
I was going to say, yeah. We do need to talk more
Dylan
about
Moore,
this.
they're like
Need to
putting
talk
it up
more
in the
about this.
he's putting it up in the
Yes,
group chat.
I
said, Dylan Moore said underrated player.
Underrated. Oh, how good that
He was good.
The best part about being live, Swizz, is that I can elbow you if I need you to shut up, or just gag you, not sexually, but just
well,
hand over the mouth, just kind of
gently.
No, he was
With
fantastic.
care.
Him and Dave were absolutely brilliant. So I was sitting there watching on the train as I was travelling up from the Gold Coast, and the Hawthorn performance was it was brilliant. Did not see that one coming.
Can we just a little side segment here, because I'm getting a lot of these live tweets here talking about Doherty to Stewart, is it crazy? We're even talking about
okay, so I'll talk about that.
we can just in general, people just trading out Primo for Primo, and that's the kind of season we're getting into now, because you've had a few weeks, it's been 3 rounds, and it's like, this person, so Stewart killing it, so Docky, piss off, you're out, and then it's even we're talking about, I'm like, hey, Bontempelli, bugger off, I need Clary in my side as a captain option. And it's definitely a little bit of that silly season where you kind of go, okay, we've got trades, this person sucks.
That's point chasing.
Point chasing. The only one I can see, though, so Stewart, you wait, they play Hawks this week, so he might get tagged, especially after dominating.
Swans in 2 weeks as well.
Yeah, so especially after dominating this week, I think he gets some attention. I think I'd be keen to get Clary at any cost, even though I think he might split his CBAs more against weaker opponents to rest him, which was the theory going in, as you know, how I said top 8 sides, they really need to win because they need top 4, so Clary will be like CBA beast. And then you play West Coast, and maybe he'll start off in the CBAs, and if they start winning and dominating like they did Sydney, then maybe they just kind of go, okay, let's just tail you off and give you a bit of a mix to make sure that you don't burn out. But I will probably have him by the end of the week, so I guess we'll ride
that's exactly
we'll
right.
ride that train.
So on a couple of those players, firstly, Stewart, his break even is 161, so he could get that, but he's not going up in value this week. The following week, even if he scores, say, 100 this week, his break even will drop to 60. So we're expecting his break even to be a lot lower. So you get a free week at it. And I know people will be like, but playing the Hawks, he could go really well. And points on field are important. But I wouldn't be going premium to premium in that situation. Doherty still had a great game. Had 39 touches.
Yep.
That's absolutely dominating a game of AFL.
His role's still there.
The problem was, and not just even a wet field, it was like a cow paddock. And if you look outside of Kelly and maybe Buckley and Sard, nearly every player in that game, their DT to Supercoach was horrific. Like you look at Cogs, and he's had 28 or 29 touches for 58 Supercoach. Like that game was not. If you're a normal ball winning person who likes to kick the ball long down the ground, awful day for you. So I'd be looking at going
touches at 55%.
Yeah, to me that's Doherty
7
going
fingers,
120, 130. We just didn't get that score, but I wouldn't be going and trading him out. And the other thing, watching Stewart today, so I want that first half, and I've tweeted a bit about it today. It was one of the worst games of footy. Like that was 17th versus 18th, and the Suns really dominated Geelong. They just their transition to forward was great. They just didn't connect with a couple of their forwards, and then some of the marks that King was dropping, and that just let Stewart more into the game, and even some of that, as I said, the lack of transition, Stewart was coming through, but he still didn't look 100%. Like he had that much strapping on both legs, a couple of times sort of hobbling at the back. It was just that they continued to let him just float in and do whatever he wanted. So we were all looking, going, there's a 160 odd, but I wouldn't be moving on too quickly, because if there's no guarantee that he pulls up. There was still talk that he could be a late pull-out. So
we have on the same vein, S Kick has asked if we should be trading Doherty to LDU. And I suppose the unique proposition of that is because of LDU's laid out. Do we know what that was? Was it
Calf tightness.
Calf
So
tightness?
then apparently he had maybe copped a bit of a knock, was a bit tight in the calf from the last game.
Oh, yeah.
And they thought he'd get up. He was doing the warm up and he just felt a little bit tight. And they just didn't want to risk him, so they pulled him
Fair
out
enough.
late.
Which is no guarantees that like he comes definitely straight back in this week.
but I
You'd
mean,
think so.
the
but
benefit, we've got another week before his price rises again.
Yeah,
So
I think he would, because if you wouldn't be named and then get to the game and think that, like, hey, I'll be fine. And physios, especially with physios at footy clubs, you're getting rubbed down like every other day. And the best treatment to actually get up and going. So if it was just tightness, it would have been a point where it's like, okay, I should be right. You start doing all your warm-ups and your pre-game and then go, actually, I still feel a little bit tight. And then they just go, well, obviously we're not risking that, and bye. Like, that's it. So I think with a whole another week of rehab, I think he'll be fine.
And Binger Carroll just said as well, Neil to Oliver, which is on the same thread.
I think Oliver's definitely, with their run coming, I'd be keen. And
I'd do that.
more importantly, because like Laird hasn't been a great captain option. Bontempelli hasn't been a great captain option. English has been. But then what if he doesn't perform? So we're getting these 110 average, as in at the moment, captain options. Whereas Clary, I think you can easily at least lock down knowing he'll go 110 to 130 a lot of the time. And I would like some security, because knowing that you have Laird or Doherty as a VC, or no, not Doherty, or you had that round one, like Bontempelli VC or one of these other options, I would probably sleep easier knowing that I could go, say, Laird into Clary or English into Clary, rather than trying to run the dice on someone else.
Yeah.
And I know people that were like, oh, Saints 150th or whatever it is, and running Marshall in. Like, it's tough out there.
Another one that's an interesting one for this week. Oscar says, is it still worth jumping on Chandler?
No, I think Friends had their 20-year run, and that's I understand, because he probably sells a low break even, and the same thing can go for
Minus
like Davey,
42, yeah.
and Davey and Long as well. It looked like they've gone up 40k, but they're still primed to make possibly another 100. But if your team was
206k now, he went up 80k, which is
oh
awesome.
wow, no,
That's
don't go
huge.
206k, would you?
But yeah, with still that low break even. Now the thing is, the role's still not there. Like
he
so
was forward
surprised.
a lot. He kicked 2 goals.
He only
3, I
had-
think, in the end.
Oh, 3 in the end. Okay.
I think he only had like 10 touches for the game.
yeah, not
Yeah,
many.
It wasn't many, 9 or 10.
Yeah, but I think because he did hit the scoreboard, he will still play. And then
and
playing
that's the
West
thing.
Coast and a few of these softer sides, I think he still could make money. But the risk was already bringing him in, so I wouldn't bring him in after he's gone up 80k, because that just becomes worse.
He still potentially could be the sub next week, which is crazy. But my thing is, he's played well enough that like he's almost undroppable right now.
Yeah.
He's playing that role absolutely perfectly. So yes, like if he had played badly this week, I think he's out next week. So we kind of get, and I was bringing him in anyway because like just cash gen, like whatever, like I don't care. He's probably going to make 60k regardless of what he scores. Let's just go with it. Now that he's made 80 with another low break 80k with a low break even, and played well, I see him at least getting another week. Now, is it worth bringing someone in at 200k for 1 week of cash gen? Probably not.
Probably not.
No.
And that's the thing. Like as you
it's
said,
one
9
bad
touches.
game. That's all it is.
As you said, 9 touches. But it's also when he kicked those goals. Like the Swans were coming, they got back within a
Yeah.
goal, and then he kicks that goal to kickstart them
and
back
got a
on the way.
couple of goal
So
assists as well,
yeah,
yeah.
so that's important times, as we know. They when the games are closer, well, especially if you're hitting the scoreboard, you're getting more value for your points.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what happened with Chandler there.
The only exception to the rule, if you didn't get Sheasel, I'd pay 300 for Sheasel.
100%.
Well, isn't he
That's
still
a- that's a-
projected?
He's
That's a
the best
premium. So
Yeah, but he's still projected to go up another 100,000 over 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Like he's probably the exception. I've heard a few people talking about the Amati party. I would stay clear of that one.
Yeah.
But I think the other option is people are trying to look at, okay, well, who are the cheap options to bring in? And there's not really many. I mean, Caminiti's gone up, 50,000?
Yep.
There's no one except for Phillips, who only got a gig because he had LDU out, but more importantly, Simkin. So if both of them are back in, you got Wardlaw getting 24 touches in the
How
seconds.
long is it? Yeah.
Like, if he does get a gig, how long until they go, okay, well, Phillips, they were trying to get in the midfield anyway, whereas Wardlaw's a contested beast, apparently, for a junior. So it's like, okay, well, how long does he get that run for?
The other one is Community. So Community obviously would have gone up a little bit, but he's still probably, 140, 150?
153.
So he's still an available option and had another good score back-to-back. Well, and I suppose with Saints, it's like...
If they keep winning,
gonna go, like, surely not. Surely we're not talking about Saints top of the table
Surely
after 12
not.
rounds.
100% that won't happen. Well done to those who jumped on Jack Buckley from the Giants too.
Yeah,
that was such an expensive price, but to get the 99 and the 70k, and he's got a massive break even still. So that's really good. The one that we're interested to actually watch, unfortunately, it's not this week, but there's two. There's Van Rooyen and then there's Tyler Brockman.
Yep.
So they've only played the first game. So unfortunately, there's not really options this week. We don't want to go early.
I don't think you should be looking at unless you absolutely have to. So, for example, like I said earlier, if you've got Cameron and you need to get off him, there really isn't anyone below him. Mm-hmm. And that was always the risk going down to someone like Cameron because I guess no one saw him getting an injury. He's been pretty... not immune to injury, but he's been pretty good out there. So, that sucks.
The curse of the Ruckman.
First week in. It is what it is, I guess. We do have some more questions here, guys.
Just before you get on to that question, because, we we're just talking about a couple of those guys that we were looking at this week that we were talking about mid-prices. Crozier crossed him off the list. Richards came back and ruined his role. And
Absolutely.
I watched the two this morning, Tanner Bruin and Bose.
Let's talk Bose too.
I'll talk Bruin first. Oh my God! If I feel for people who went high for him in draft and started him because dead set that guy. And Gary Rowan in 20 minutes of footy looked so much better than him. He was just he gets dropped this week, and it's hard for him to be dropped because I watched the Geelong VFL team get smashed by 107 points. They had nothing good going for them today.
Yeah.
And then the other one, Bose. So Bose was playing defensive midfielder, so he had 8 or 9 tackles.
Yep.
But unlike
didn't get enough of the pill, though.
but unlike say when we talk about Setterfield playing defensive midfielder and you still get the pill, he was just trying to play lockdown.
Yep. So he doesn't run off and spread.
No.
Yeah. So Isaac asked him. I think Chris, you also said failed the eye test for some people, and he could be a good option, but even then I think he started coming off the bench. You look at their team and they're actually pretty well stacked anyway on some of it.
I hate the role of those.
The role was not there at all.
So you sort of go, okay, what's the best role in Supercoach? Yep. And it has to be
Dacos Sheasel, halfback flank
is the easiestly the best. If he got that. The halfback flanker who's running through into the midfield, that's what I want to see with Jack Bose. The fact that he's playing lockdown, and then when he's not playing lockdown, he's playing deep forward, not interested. And then he gets thrown around to other roles. He's sort of a Mr. Fix-It in that sense as well. That was
the one advantage going to the footy today, because usually you go and see your own team, so you're invested in the game and that, you're not watching Supercoach players. And when you're watching on TV, they follow the match. They don't follow what's happening off the ball. So it was actually great sitting there on ground level and just watching particular players that I wanted to watch.
Yeah.
And still, I enjoyed some of the game, not the first half, the second half maybe, but because it was such an average game anyway, I was just more intensely watching these particular players that I needed to watch. And it failed the eye test on every level.
Did you hear that, Fox Footy? You can actually get stuff, context about what's happening off the camera. Instead of you just regurgitating what you see back to people as they see it, that would be nice. If you actually go to games and commentate from the game, that'd be nice.
Well, but when they even do have people at the game, you'd have someone like Kelly Underwood and then doesn't even get the scores right and a whole lot of other shit.
I'll be like, that breaks the run of 6 out of 7. I was like, well, then it's not a run if it has been already broken. And I think actually this is a shout out to Quickly Twitter where someone was like, hey, Fox Footy, there's some seats spare up in the grandstand where they normally would commentate from or whatever. There's some seats available because Fox Footy's not using them, because they're not flying out for the game. They're actually doing it from Melbourne. And then someone's like, if there's tickets available, I'm keen. And then we're like, it's a joke, mate. They're not going to there. He's like, so if there's seats free. And we're like, dude, I tried to let you know nicely and you still followed it up with, are there tickets?
Yeah.
No.
So the only two really that are on the bubble that I know others were maybe considering. So one was Samson Ryan. So that's a no for me.
Subbed out.
And
Horrible.
it just didn't work. The conditions didn't work for him.
2 first names. I should have listened. Darcy
right.
Cameron. I should have listened.
Exactly. We know those rules. And then it's Harry Rawson from Ralston from GWS.
Chris just got a name right.
Yes.
You fucked up.
No, it's Ralston, isn't it? Ralston?
I don't know.
It's Ralston. Yeah.
Ralston, okay.
I'll say it again if you really want.
No, go. So, he's been fairly solid in
Roll's
scoring.
good,
48, 55. Roll's good.
60% CBAs last 2 weeks. The problem is, GWS don't really need him. Who he came in for Who was out this week?
No, but wasn't most people back this week? I'm trying to think. There's still somebody out. Did Perryman play?
Yeah, that's it. Perryman. Yeah, so he was out. He's out with a hamstring. So
hamstring.
That's generally, 3 weeks. So depending on, it's a 21-day turnaround. So depending on when that falls in. So
John O'Carroll says, Binger says the Pies will lose to the Saints in the Magic Round.
okay.
Well, anything could happen that weekend because it's all in
true.
Adelaide. So
That's true.
That round is going to be such a tipping night. Well, this week was a tipping nightmare, but yeah, who knows what happens? Because you got, especially where the games were at grounds that they've never played footy at before, like Mount Barker. What the hell is going to happen at that game? I think it's the Brisbane game. Like anything could happen there. It could be 200 to 100. Like we have no idea because we've got no data on this ground.
So one thing that we need to probably discuss is, okay, so what do the Pies do with no Cameron? And I think that does impact a lot of things, especially Supercoach related. But so I've had a big think about this, and I think Frampton's the likely scenario, and they've got options behind the ball. But Frampton's, So
who's gone behind the ball then? I think it could be a bit of a tag team scenario. To be honest,
personally, I think it's probably going to be Myercheck that goes behind, and they play Reef McInnes up forward, who's been the sub twice out of the 3 games, and he's played that role and was subbed on for Brody Myercheck last week. However, they've also got Will Kelly, who's obviously been training up at fullback, and they also have Tom Wilson that can also play that role. So they have guys that can come into Frampton's role to free him up to play ruck. The only other option that they have really is going to be McStay in the ruck, which I don't like.
That's the option they went straight to on Friday night.
I think with time and preparation that changes. Thrown into it, McStay's probably the only one that was even training in the ruck that week.
Yeah.
Well, it changes the backline too, the dynamic too quickly on game day.
Tom Lynch. Who else are you going to play?
Yeah.
They were killing that matchup.
Yeah.
Why would they change that?
Yeah.
Like, he was absolutely dominating Tom Lynch, so which is good because Tom Lynch is a massive flog. But so what I don't think they lose as much. They lose far too much with McStay going into the ruck compared to what they would lose from Frampton going out of defence. I think the defence can hold up a little bit better, and then he's at least a serviceable ruckman that they can throw in there. Now, they probably have your option A, option B, option C, but I'm pretty confident that that's the kind of setup that they'll go with. I don't think they'll go with Steen, who's the SPP selection that they got in, who's the rookie
very
ruck.
young too,
Very young, very raw. I'm not sure that's the option that they go with. Don't get me wrong, he could be. He could just throw him into the Lions' den. But they've got, obviously, Big O this week. So, I mean, one thing that might save that is, who do they want their matchups on? I suppose you can play anyone on Hipwood, doesn't really matter.
No.
You're probably playing more on Danaher, and then Gunston probably can attract any of probably a Maynard type or something similar. They don't need someone super tall there. I could play John Noble on Hipwood and still win that contest.
Any of us could play on Danaher this week. He kicks 7-8 behinds, and Dacos gets more kick-ins. Like, it wins for everybody.
Play Dacos on him, leave him one out in the goal square. Dacos just runs and gets the ball forward.
Twofold. I think it'll be a combination between the two where, say McStay might play ruck, but then he'll go forward and rest, and then it'll kind of be a bit of a tag team where one of them will probably get more of the share. But what better way to go and have your chop out of, say, 40 to 60%, whichever way it goes for either of them.
Yep.
And then, okay, so you're resting, but you're now in defense, or you're resting, you go forward, and then use that sort of bench line. If Steen was to come in, I think it would be more of a case of he would play, and they would just say, hey, we just need you to give us like, a half or three quarters and just try and hit the ball anywhere. Yep. And everyone will just go and try and read the drop of the ball and then go from there.
The only problem with that is, like, I wouldn't mind, but Oscar McInerney is actually a half decent ruck, and he can really punish you. And that's literally throwing him to the Lions' den. Like, I just don't. He's going to get ragdolled around.
Good one, Chris. Lions Den.
Thank you very much. I've practiced this earlier. So I'm not. That's why I don't like it. Like, if it was like Laddams or fucking any shit ruckman like Draper or something like that, I wouldn't care. Even though Draper obviously can ragdoll.
Draper just negates scores. And I did say earlier this week as well that Dacos is going big. Because when you put together, Danaher and Hipwood kicking 12 behinds and 4 out in the full, then he'll probably get many possessions, and their forward pressure has been horrible. So the ball, once it hits the ground, it's just literally leaving the back line there. So Yeah, going to be interesting there. So there are a few outs, and that's the big issue at this point because there's no one really to downgrade to because a lot of the people have been playing outside of Will Phillips, who we already said maybe is or is not a good option. But people have Callahan, they have Gota, they have all of these underperforming people where it's might be a case of you just might have to suck it up and hope that they actually spike a good score to restart their generation.
Yep.
Their cash generation.
Now, shout out to Global, who's just made a donation.
Hey!
Thanks, Global. It's $2.99 there, buddy. And he said he'll double it if Swizz doesn't say "and that" for 10 minutes.
Pressure's on. Is Global the one in our chat that said he's Global?
Yeah,
I'm just not going to talk at all.
That's brilliant. Thank you very
Global
much,
$2.99. My God, he's not a Happy Meal, my man.
Now, but before we move on, before we move on, but as we move on, Cat Attack 27 has just said, how severe is Will Setterfield's injury? And I was of the opinion it was just a dislocated finger.
Yeah.
So
You got 10 fingers? Or
he'll
8
be
fingers,
right.
2 thumbs?
Strap it up. Get it back out there,
Yeah,
buddy.
just wrap it up.
Yep. Give Clary a call and he'll tell you exactly how to work
Goats
with that.
don't even have fingers anyway. They have hooves, don't they? And they
Yeah, was it like from last pod? They called me Knuckles.
Well done. I love it. All good. So, Newy Boy 55 YT said he's definitely into get out of Finn and he wants to get Phillips for that. Now, I'm scared about Phillips as a pick overall because what we've seen is he comes in and he's only an inside mid. And I think that Clarko has identified that you are only an inside mid and you cannot play anywhere else. And that's fair enough. But he's also identified he's not good enough to be in his starting mid rotations. That's a big red flag. That's giant. To me, that means that he'd rather play him in the twos than give him subpar minutes playing, say, off a half-forward flank that rotates through the midfield because he's just not good enough to be pushing out guys like Simpkin, obviously, out to a wing, which is what they really tried. But, that's a huge red flag for me.
Callahan to Phillips is kind of like clutching at straws to try and free up 100K.
Yeah.
And it's probably that 100K that they might need to then go, hey, from a Darcy Cameron to whoever. But Callahan probably would have been on field for a lot of people. So it's like, well, what are you going to do? Try and like loophole if you have one or play Baker instead. And
Which is not a great idea.
No. And
you could play Noah Long, I guess. He's pretty good.
Oh, mate. I'm spewing my whole philosophy on small forwards, and both of them did well this week, so it's absolutely painful.
Yeah, Davey did all right with the 66 as well. Actually, my bench went really good this week. My on-field rookies, they went terrible. So Cam McKenzie, guys, 89, only 27% CBAs. So we went in saying, if his role's not there, he's not going to be able to score. I actually think that he could have scored more as well.
Shout out Benny T, up the Sainters. Keep up the good work, fellas. Donated $14.99.
Hey, cheers, Benny T.
3 Happy Meals. Look at that. And obviously just got us to read out Go the Sainters. So stay tuned. No,
Who are the
they're
Saints
doing great
playing this
stuff.
week, though?
Ooh.
Let's have a
Gold
look at the
Coast
fixture.
Suns at Marvel.
Is it at Marvel? Wow, that's a W. They're going to be 4-0. Gosh.
Don't
What happens
count
with
out the Suns.
Now, nah. Oh, one thing we need to talk about. Charlie Constable.
Oh,
So absolutely tore it up. Like, as we know, he can find the ball. So we know that that's the thing. What do we think about his chances to get back in the team? How do you view Ben Long and Darcy McPherson, who kind of were on fire early,
Yeah.
and then kind of faded into nothing? Like, they just didn't do anything after quarter time.
McPherson was sitting in the back pocket, and a lot of the kickouts were just going to him.
Yeah.
So
Which
a
is
lot of teams are happy to forfeit that short kick into the back pocket
because then they can defend the
defend that
strong side. Yeah.
So I was really surprised the Gold Coast Suns actually did that.
Yep.
And then they changed their philosophy as they went forward into the games.
Yep.
They do have a few options down there. So with Powell coming back in, they continue to rotate through there. So, yeah, it was interesting to see, McPherson start there. And then as the game went on, he kind of moved more around the ground and then came back. And, yeah, they've got a lot of options to rotate through the bench and rotate up the ground, and they're half-forward flankers. So it's a hard one because he dominated the VFL so much today. What I saw of it, he was everywhere. But he can't necessarily get that role, and he's not going to play that sort of opposition. Like Geelong gave no opposition at all
Yep.
for them today. So it'll be interesting
That
to
was
see
the
if they
worst
make
I've
the
seen
change.
Geelong play in a long time.
And you didn't see them play in the VFL.
Yeah.
Like
I was
Yeah,
just glad
flogged
there
on
was-
flogged on flogged.
they were walking in goals, the Suns. Like Des said, we could have walked in goals, us three out there,
Yeah.
the way the Cats were playing in the VFL.
I was watching and then and saying in the chat that I can't wait for this other game to start because I got to turn this off. It was horrid football, and I was so tired of watching it. And you could see like a play develop. They would get the ball, Geelong, and I've never seen this from Geelong. Their players have no idea where to move the ball to when they get it. It's like they had no options.
Yeah,
they were looking down the
disjointed.
field. Yeah.
The only possibility is Flanders did get injured, so it looked like he did his calf. I'm not the best on medical, but that did happen in front of me. He started and he tried to run through it and just couldn't. So they subbed him off. So Flanders goes out. Do they bring in Constable and maybe move McPherson
Who's played
forward,
half
who
forward
has
before.
played it before?
Yeah.
So that is quite a possibility.
That role is actually what his old role, like a couple of years ago.
That's what he was known for. Shout out as well to Damo from Jock Reynolds is here saying, hey, dudes. Andre as well, this will be uploaded to Spotify. I've got the version here, so I could probably tweak that or export the live later and put it up onto the MP3 version. So it will be up on the line as well. I'm seeing a lot of people trying to talk, even premiums. Like Brayshaw obviously didn't have a really good game today. Zach Merritt as well.
That's
hasn't
something
been.
we got wrong in the preseason, right?
Yeah.
He's a
Oh, I think
he's a
I had him
shell of his
sliding
former
a
self.
little bit because I had Fremantle sliding as far as wins, and that was the only reason there. Zach Merritt, I think if you have him or Parrish, I think you kind of just hold on a little bit. Their draw really opens up. Was it around round 10? And they play, I think it's West Coast and North Melbourne twice in the run home. So that's 4 games out of the last 14 that are absolutely bunnies.
That Fremantle midfield I've got completely wrong because I was so big on Will Brodie. I've got him in
dropped.
many
Brodie.
drafts and gets dropped.
Horrible.
Horrible for my draft sides.
Only took 5 injuries for Freo to get a win, so that's good.
Exactly.
They were shit.
They were
shocking.
They were in real trouble in this match.
The only reason that they ended up winning that game was because West Coast just could not spread because they had no legs. That is the only reason they won. I couldn't believe how bad they played. And, also just want a big shout out. Whoever traded in Cox, you probably deserve that score. So
Yeah, and
well
I
done.
tried to tell people no as well that were saying, oh, Cox. I was like, yeah, mate, but, the defenders were scoring really well in a couple of those games. I was just like, no. And we said he'd have to be a keeper, and if he's averaging that much to make money, then you're going to have to keep him because he's going to be averaging too much to get rid of.
Yeah. And
bad
what we did see, though, is that they weren't switching the ball and playing chip-to-chip football today. So that coincided with a W. So maybe they actually learned something from a game. So who knows? I have no faith in Freo or Justin Longmuir, so whatever. Now, a few people obviously in the chat also saying, trade out premiums. I think a blanket rule is unless there's someone that you absolutely must have and someone who you must get rid of, then fair enough. But these are, so trade out Ridley and Marshall for Day and English. That's, to me, I think that's not good. That's not a good move.
Yeah.
That's from Simo. But, I mean, so here's why. Ridley's still probably going to go 90 to 100. Day is up and down, and his role's not really cemented, nailed on, I wouldn't say. It could also change. And we just don't know with Mitchell what he's doing. Is this what he wants to see moving forward? Is he wanting Will Day as a permanent inside mid 65% every single week? Or is next week going to change again?
Or they might start to win too many games and they go, hang on, we need to back... we need to back off a little bit here, guys. We don't want to do too well because that might jeopardise our pick 1.
Yes.
One from JP. If you guys watched the D Swans, what role did Goulden play today?
So same role that he's been playing.
But slightly which quarter was it? I saw him forward a lot.
Yeah, so I'll grab the
Early
CBAs
on.
now. It wasn't terrible, but so from what I saw, when he was in the midfield, they were getting killed. So it wasn't really conducive to scoring. He had a really great back end, I think, of the second
quarter. Yeah, he went from... I think he was on 14 or something early on in the second. Didn't do much at all.
Yep.
And then literally I was like, oh, bloody Gulen. And I was like, lift. Next minute I look over at the score and he's on 50 going towards halftime. I was like, boom.
So flagged by... So Goulden actually dropped in CBAs to 31.
Right.
So that is a drop. Now, I'm thinking more likely... So we've had the last 2 weeks. Sydney absolutely ran over the top of the opposition, and Goulden was instrumental in doing that, don't get me wrong, but at 50% CBAs. Mills was the one that changed this week. So they're getting beaten. Clary was fucking giving a masterclass. He was bathing them up in the midfield there for a little bit. And then I saw Mills go to Clary.
Yeah,
Now,
and then
I
give
don't
away
know
a
if that's-
50 or a free kick or
Yeah,
whatever as well.
I don't know if that was a hard tag, but it was definitely... Mills is possibly the best two-way mid in the comp, if you really want him to be. So it was a roll. It was a run-with-roll. So whether that's a continuation and we see that moving forward, that Goulden drops and Mills gets more, I'm not sure. I don't think so. I think, but in games where they need to lock someone down, I think.
So what you're saying is Goulden could be more of your flat track bully, whereas if you're going up, say, like a Paddy Cripps, and then Goulden's the first one to make way, and then Mills gets more of that actual
pretty much, yeah.
better.
Well, that's what I saw today. I mean, it's not necessarily a
No,
trend.
it's an assumption,
Yes.
but isn't it something that we could definitely watch?
Absolutely.
In the future. So look, I still think he's doing well enough.
85.
Yeah.
Dude, he put on great tackle pressure. He gets burnt a lot, hey. Like there's options when I'm like, why are you not passing to the best kick on your team? I just don't get it.
Poor Mitchimus Prime had to see on Cogs. He would have been. I hope your TV was smashed by the end of that game. Josh Kelly as well has been mentioned a couple of times. Chris, you're the specialist of Josh Kelly.
Yeah, brilliant. I've been wanting to get on him, and if I had the money right now, and if I had a premium at the price, I'd be sideways into it. Like, he looks freaking awesome. So
The hard thing is, if you don't have Clary, you're looking at him, and then there's LDU as well. So you've got LDU, Jelly, and Oliver.
The difference is with Oliver, of course, is still 700k. It's really hard. You're two trading to get to him in most situations.
If you have to use two trades to just upgrade a premium, it's a really hard pill to swallow. And I do want him, mainly because of the captaincy option that he does provide. But at the same time, you can't have them all. And, if like a Bontempelli and McRae or a Neil, you still have to throw like 100,000 on them, basically. Maybe not quite 100, but you still have to throw cash. And if you have that cash and you're not using it to go from, say, Darcy Cameron to English or something like that, then, if you don't have that problem and you have the money already there, then I think that would be a wise decision to go from a Merritt or someone else that's maybe not quite performing, or a Brayshaw. If you've got the money to get there in one, I think, Oliver with their soft run coming is a good option, especially as we said, captain options, the twice points. Double the points can be very valuable, I think.
Yeah.
I want him. I'll burn my team to make it happen. That's how I feel about footy this week.
Fair enough. And so someone like, say, a Brayshaw, for example, would you be interested in Brayshaw to Kelly? Or Brayshaw to LDU? Or something of that description? Would you do it?
Yeah, I don't like Brayshaw at the
on
moment.
current form, yeah.
Yeah. And
I
you
think
know he's a
you've got
quality
an
player,
absolute-
but he was already fringe top 10.
Yeah.
So I'd only kind of like to go from him to maybe someone as a better prospect of being a top 10 mid. LDU, I think, based on form, yes, okay, but then he's already got the calf ones here. Oh, Mikey with the, look at that, popped straight up. Mikey with the 10, thanks, mate. What's to go with Buckley? Haven't seen him play. Gota stinking up in my back line, so that's another issue. Gota, Callahan, we've spoken about as well, trying to get them up and anywhere. So I guess with the scenarios there, I mean, Jones didn't really go up in price. He went from 220 something to 230.
because he had the 5, obviously.
Because he had that one, so he's still actually a pretty good option. I think Gota, you could almost sideways to Jones. I think it's probably your best bet as far as price point.
Yep.
There's not much else down, and we said there's not many rookies as far as going down.
And even actually, the random one, the worst hair in football right now, SPS. What did you think?
My gosh.
Awful.
The pineapple.
Awful. The pineapple. That's what we're dubbing it.
we were chatting about it, and I was like, do you reckon he walked into his barber and showed him a picture of a pineapple? He was like, yeah. We said, what are you doing today, mate? Oh, this is what I want. Pineapple. It's
But the reason I raise him, because he's a 281 forward who's gone 72 and 116, and now West Coast have got injuries galore in there.
Yeah.
Is that a weird price point that you could look at as a forward option?
Yeah, well, I mean, West Coast are obviously now back into tank mode. They've lost. They will have lost Luke Shuey from this game. They will have lost Jeremy McGovern. He'll be out for a few weeks. I think they both did hamstrings. Next week they'll lose Witherden, who looked like he actually was trying to be in a contest for the first time in his life and got knocked the fuck out. So he's gone for next week.
Probably thought he was in Brisbane.
Yeah. Who else? I said Ryan. We'll have to see how he pulls up. He did come back on. Obviously, had a couple of good moments, but he hurt himself in that massive specky that he was trying to take. And who else? They had another one. Oh, so there's an ankle injury to Jamie Cripps as well. So their whole senior list is Shannon Hearn's the only one.
Yeah.
He's like last man standing in the back line.
Makes you wonder then who's going to come through, because I mean you might look at like Jinby might go play defence a little bit more because he's quite tall. So then do they get a Hewitt coming in to play more of that midfield?
They've got Yo that
coming
should
back.
come back. However, there was a presser obviously from who's their coach? Gosh,
Simpson.
Yeah, Simpson. So he actually said on his presser, look, we've got him there, but we don't want to rush him back because he's got a history of calf injuries, and we just want to give him as much time as we can because we don't want him to be back out again with another calf, which will probably happen. But yeah, I mean, it'd be nice to be able to throw Yo in there this week because they're probably going to need him.
Oh yeah, and he's one to watch as well.
Yeah.
Not that I'd recommend bringing in a $330,000 player or whatever it is that had an injury as well. And global, mate, I don't think I heard Swizz say and that for 10 minutes, mate. So jump on. And how good's this though? No, we don't often do lives. I think you've done one. This is our first one together, let alone I think second overall.
I think our first podcast in a room, all three of us, right?
It is.
No, I came up last year and we did the
I think you just did it with Ben.
I did with Ben, because you racked off.
Yeah, Chris wasn't that inspired last year. Was that the year before? Pre-season last year, and then you jumped in.
We did something together, and then
because I came up for the footy.
Sloppy seconds over here.
Yeah, exactly.
The first time we were here together, and also thank you very much to those actually doing the live donations. This is a nice event on a Sunday night.
I think we should
getting
do
in
this every
early.
week.
We should.
Just fly up every week.
I think my wife's actually watching this. So, honey, can I come up a bit more and do this with the boys?
We just need a few $100 more donations every week.
Actually, no, she's in the chat. Honey, you can come up a bit more if you go down a bit more. Shout out to
Brian.
That was well done.
Yes.
Wow.
Quick pro quo.
Pro quo.
Very interesting. Now, I've seen a couple of people in the chat as well saying, like, oh, should I get rid of not LDU, bloody Horn Francis, or should I get rid of Warple? And these questions, and we've seen it already where I think Horn Francis has already traded out heaps the week just gone, and people would have, I assume, brought in Warple just the week gone. So if you've just brought that person in, or you just brought in a Callahan that people had, then I almost feel like you need to give them a little bit longer than other people.
Yeah.
Whereas I started Callahan, so in my mind, if there was someone there, then I'd have no issues culling them because it would be a correction.
Yeah.
Whereas if you actually gone and burnt a trade to bring them in, then you actually need to give them an opportunity to maybe spike a few good scores.
Yeah.
Now, with Horn Francis particularly, they have a really soft run coming up. So it's not quite yet. They have a couple more fairly hard ones maybe, but then they play some really soft opponents. They probably play quite a lot of games at home as well with the run there.
And
so if he does...
the magic round as well.
They already know that if they were getting beaten up a little bit or he wasn't getting in the game forward, then they put him in the CBAs and he was tackling, he was getting down and dirty. He pretty much did everything except for chase opponents once they got 2 meters past him. So, but otherwise, he could downhill ski and still spike another few scores.
Yep.
Where he had that one good score, which will be out of his cycle in the next week or so. But if he could spike another 150 or 140 because of the style of play and make you some more cash.
I think with JHF, that's absolutely true. He's going to have spike games all over the shop because of the way he plays.
Yep.
And he's also going to have shit scores like he did last week.
Yep.
Now, what do I see him average? Exactly what he scored this week, which is an 85, is pretty much where I see him. So, he's going to make a bit of cash. It's going to be a ride that's going to go up and down and up and down and up
It'll
and down.
depend on the lows as to the average. I think you could go like 90, but it depends on how low it is and how consistent you can piece together.
Warple, I'm really worried about Warple. I did, after looking last week, I was like,
Yeah,
he played less, but he still scored really well.
You spoke him up. He's cleaned up. He's not trying to bite off the hard options.
That's true, but remember, roll is king. And I didn't expect back-to-back weeks of 55% CBAs.
Yep.
I'm not paying $300,000.
He was the big dog.
Yeah, he was the number one midfielder, and now he's not. So Connor Nash and Will Day have taken those CBAs, and that's a huge red flag for Warple. So I do understand those guys that got on him, and you only really have one more week to make that decision because his 90s will drop out of his cycle after this week. So, yeah, he would have still made you cash this week. I'm not sure how much Warple went up. I'm assuming, say, probably 35, 40K or something like that. But, yeah, he's if he has one more price rise, you really got to think about, okay, is the role there and do you need to get off him? And maybe it's down to a rookie. And we'll have quite a few on the bubble next week. So, we got to watch that.
And even I think Callahan, I think he just watched another week because he did get 100 the first week.
Yep.
And he can score really well, because he can be an elite user and link up, etc. But, you just kind of need a game or two in a short succession where they actually use his side a little bit more and he links up and scores a little bit more as well. So I think GWS do have a couple of easier games kind of on the run coming up fairly soon. And I think I just think with the way he has scored, he can go on these runs where he just goes in 25-point quarter. So I think this one, the scores really suck. And if you have a loophole option, I probably don't mind keeping him a little bit more until a better option comes along that you can actually downgrade to.
Yep.
And that's probably going to be the main kicker for me, because I could just put an emergency on him or run a Baker or run a Chandler as an emergency and see which of those fires. And then I can just try and loophole in. And then I'll push one of my forwards up into the midfield, and I'll say, Callaghan, get off the field. Or Baker goes well, then Callaghan, get off the field. And I think looking for any opportunity so he doesn't play, but then if he plays an early game, which would be beneficial, throw the emergency on him, and maybe he spikes a good score or two, and then bugger him off at. I'd hope that even if he gets like 350 or 3, I'd be happy to take 100 if I can, and just bugger him off.
So the Dreamer said in the chat he's thinking of going Chesser to McElhaney, who's the Adelaide intercepting defender. I think anything with Chesser out's probably good. Me and Swiss watched that game. We were having a laugh, mate. There's a couple of times he actually got the ball, but he just didn't get rid of it, so he got no stat. He'd pick the ball up and get immediately tackled, or he'd pick the ball up and it'd spill out of his hands or whatever. Then he went to the bench, had a rub down because he must have been so sore from all the work he was doing. He's not an option for a super coach at the moment. They're burning he'll still play because they have no one else, but. The only reason he played a full game had to have been because if they didn't have a sub and they had no one else to get him.
Yeah, and what did he score off a full game?
I think 42.
Well, look at that. He beat his break even at 25.
So if you can sideways him to say McElhaney, is it worth it for cash gen? Potentially.
What's McElhaney, though?
He would have gone up because he's played his third this week, didn't he?
So that's the issue. Even Constable, everyone else is going up. So is it worth paying money to get someone...
Especially when you got Tyler Young there. He's obviously he's had the 52 in his system.
No, because Tarrant's going to be coming back soon.
Yeah, so you can't go. Obviously, you wouldn't go in this week, right?
Shout out to the missus. Saw the live stream and messaged me saying, "I have no idea what you're talking about, but you're doing well."
Thank you. Well done. Is that my misso or your misso?
No, my misso.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
I don't know if you heard, but
she heard the echoing of going down. I think, and then
mine just messages like, "Oh, good, I've got to put up with Ben's shit jokes, do we?"
in person.
She's like good old Supercoach outsider.
Bry's humour is by far her best trait. She's absolutely a fantastic person. So. Pretty funny too. Not to mention anyone that bags Swizz is good by me. Now, I do want to touch on this. So someone's asked why wouldn't Aiden Begg come in? And he's injured, unfortunately. So that is the reason why Aiden Begg is not an option. I think he's out for another month, which puts him in the same time frame as Cox.
All Collingwood's rucks, I think there's 4 of them, like 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Which is really annoying because in a couple of draft leagues, I picked up Cameron and Cox to handcuff them.
Nice.
And now they're both injured. So I have no idea
what
I'm doing this week. You would love
picking up Cox with your hands. I get it. That makes sense.
So here's the thing.
You with the big cock in front of you.
Boys, okay. Keep your mind out of the gutter, right? After my one comment I've got here, so mashed potatoes like, wow, Benny. And then the Ultimate Fitness Adventure Camp's like, oh no, that's something else. Someone else. So Angus Watto's like, no, Ben, that's Rogue, mate. So sorry about that, everyone. And clean it up, boys. This is a family segment. No, it's not. It's 10 o'clock.
It's like 11 o'clock at night somewhere.
No, there's no more daylights, mate. It's happy. I can't wait to actually watch footy at 7:20 o'clock and actually get all my family stuff done before the bounce, which would be amazing. Warple following Cunnington. Oh, wow, that is an issue. Definitely an issue there.
If anyone's watching live and they're in the Queensland area and want to give me a lift back to Brisbane so I can stay on longer, that'd be great.
Oh, yeah, you only got an hour, don't you? The other one is, people talking about Mason Wood. Now, Swizz was big on him last week. He was texting everyone on the chat. No, actually, even last night, he's there telling me live on how good he was, talking about Mason Wood, and no one listened to me. You all laughed at me.
Oh, he got a 50. He got a 54 in the first minute of the game to get a goal, and his score just skyrocketed right off the bat.
Yep.
I was like, what is happening here? It's
he's banged up, though, so I wouldn't be bringing him in. We already spoke about, yes, he has done well, and he probably is getting some Brownlow votes and doing well, Supercoach, but I think an issue with his shoulder, he's playing sore. The coach has said he's playing sore, so I wouldn't be banking on him to continue the bash and crash sort of style, but I am happy that he is doing well.
And just for reference, I don't think we actually answered Mike, but Buckley's role seems to be actually pretty good in that back line. Whether the role holds is the issue, and how long it does for. Phil Davis, he's still a thing, right? Or did he retire?
I think he's still on the list, isn't he?
He's still
But is it a case of they just paying him, to smooth out contracts and stuff like that? We've seen that in the past.
And I think the GWS have done that before.
Yeah. A few clubs have done that before.
Yeah.
Where, you keep somebody on just to, here.
I'm not sure about his. Yeah, I'm not sure about his.
Sometimes
security.
they do it because they put them in a coaching role as well.
Yeah.
And to soften out the soft cap.
Yeah.
Here, we'll just pay you part of the playing list.
You'd have to think that, unfortunately, like if there was a switch, and say Cadman came in and they decided to play Himmelberg back, that then Buckley's probably the.
Where
one
are you
to
saying
go out
Buckley's
there.
playing?
Sorry,
Where are you saying he's playing?
in defence.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, key defence, like on Kernow, apparently.
Yeah.
So if they're moving, say,
I got you, Sam.
Himmelberg back from Cadman coming in, I think Buckley's the one to go, and that's. I'm not sure how likely that is, but if the coaches floated it and Himmelberg's floated it, how far away is Cadman? Do we have an update on that? I don't think we do. I think he was pretty close last week. I think he played.
He was
really
in the
well.
mix, yeah.
Yeah, in the mix last week. So, yeah, look, one to watch. I'm not jumping on Buckley. I think he's obviously.
No, you had to jump on last week.
He's just gone up far too much.
Even at 200, it was a question mark anyway, let alone now 270.
Yeah, Buckley's chance.
Yep.
For those that have just joined this stream, chatting as well, I think we hit a peak of about 286. So it's been really good. The key themes so far, if you have missed it, go back and check it out later on as well. You can always re-watch the live stream, and then also on the audio platform as well. We'll push it out there. But
we can't go through every question.
We can't, especially mostly through. But key
Yeah.
themes, obviously, it's like English and Clary are pretty much at any cost, and that there's no rookies really on the horizon. So don't pick a shit pick just to free up cash.
And if you've got Darcy Cameron, much bigger advantage if you've got him in the forward line, like myself. A few people have been asking about what's the best option to go to, and we said there's not a lot, especially the rucks. Obviously, you're going up, but if you do have in the forward line and you don't have, say, Zeeble, that's probably the obvious one.
Yep.
So you do have a little bit more movement there, or even
Get
if
Clary, like you said, go Swizz, get Clary.
Yeah, just get Clary.
If you got English, get Clary at any cost.
But we're like the odd ones out with that. Because of course, Clary 40% owned. So a lot of people actually have Clary, and it's not the worry.
Yeah, which is why we dropped in rank this week.
Yeah,
that's right. Because everyone's got Clary. Yep.
If he goes 120 or something,
and if you're in that
I don't
position
drop
where you
rank.
had Clary English,
Yep.
you're flying.
Yep.
Hey, Global, he's followed
Global.
through on his 299. Thank you, Global. Well done, mate. See, Swizz and that.
Yeah, and that.
We should have done the drinking game. So every time, I did tell someone every
Actually,
time.
You're the closest to
Oh,
that,
okay,
mate.
okay. Right.
After last night, I'm not drinking. I was going to say after last night, I'm not drinking again, but jeez. That was good fun. But here I am, and I was drinking the footy.
lasted a
So
day.
that lasted a whole 12 hours.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly right.
Did you see that first half of the Gold Coast Geelong game? I actually like 30 seconds left in the half, and the guy's like, "You can wait 30 seconds." I'm like, no, mate, I'm running that bar now.
Yep.
I've had enough.
So yeah, people are definitely looking at Buckley because I've got one guy here saying Dr. Buckley to free up cash and be able to upgrade elsewhere. So that's a move that say I wouldn't do. I think that's too risky for me, and I'm a fairly risky player. But no, I probably wouldn't be looking to do something like that, in my opinion.
Oh, sweet.
Outside of that, there's lots of questions.
The only reason I'd look at Doherty for myself is,
Oh, actually, let's.
So the only reason I look at Doc, if I had to bring in Oliver and English together, like if I was like, no, I need English, let's go Marshall to English, let's go Darcy Cameron to Oliver. Okay, I need the money to do this, and there's no one else I can trade. Okay, what can I do with Doherty? But I don't want to go as far down as Buckley.
Yeah.
In saying that, could Buckley make some short-term cash, and I could get Doherty in 2 weeks again, and do something there, or Stewart or something? I don't know.
Nah.
But it's unlikely.
Thank you for trying to fill the time while I got drinks, but do not even mention Buckley anymore.
Yeah, I don't like Buckley now.
Yep.
I didn't mind him last week.
I'm more of a
Yep,
Craig
and
fan
don't go
too.
early. Don't go early on a rookie. I did that years ago. I think I went Cumming or whatever it was, and he lasted 1 week.
It's the only worse I did it last year.
Which was
to keep
really
cash on
ironic because
someone.
normally Cumming's good for a while. Not in for a one-up.
Yeah.
So don't do that one. And other ruck choices, is it as simple as going English and Grundy? Is anyone considering like a Nank? So I think Global's talking about, like, would you go a Nank Curvis? Would you try and go
Averaging
somewhere else?
118, I think it is so far. And I said he's the 7th highest overall so far.
But would you go there?
Yeah, but who
No,
have you
but
guys
that's
played
hard.
the first 3 weeks? I mean,
you guys, the Blues, so that's no Ruck.
Outside
And then
of the
Riley
2023 premiers.
Riley.
Yeah.
So it's odd. But I knew we were talking about it pre-season. Well, I know I was saying he's primed. Like he could be one guy that drops into, comes up to the top 5, but he's still that far off, English wits.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously watching Wits today, he looks shot, but is still getting, like, they had no other option. So he just, I just got to the point where Wits was just standing there and being like, well, at least I can just put my hand up and tap. That's all I can do. He was not able to spread it all. I'm not sure if he was. Did he cop a knock?
No,
at some
he
point,
just.
or
No, it's funny because he runs around like he's been shot like Bambi, and it's like
You guys forget.
he doesn't look completely right, but he still. Gets around the ground, gets himself in the right positions. There was a few times there where he's, I was like, oh, this player will get past him, and he still lays a tackle. And so I didn't think he played that well, and he didn't use his dominance and still got 120. That's how there was one moment there where they actually they could have kicked it down his throat, and I said about their disconnection with the forwards, and it would have been an easy goal to wit. So that game could have easily been 140 plus for him.
Yep.
Which makes me really excited as an owner because it's like, well, if that's his bad games, and as I said, I went to the Essendon game last week with watch him, and I didn't think he played that well either, and still got 108. So what's going to happen when he actually plays well?
I think you guys forget the fact that rucks do generally start a little bit slower, and we say it every year. They are larger human beings. You can train in the preseason, but when you actually get into the game and you have to go stoppage to stoppage to stoppage and CBA and cover that much ground, we say generally rucks take a little while. You look at 3, 4, 5 weeks to really actually get into that fitness. It's not like a light person, Dacos that just runs and runs and runs. You're looking at big, heavy boys that have to get to contest, especially if you're someone like Wits, who's the main ruck, and it's the ball's here, and you're like, oh, and you're like, got to go again, and it just takes a bit of time.
But that's what I'm saying. But he's still averaging 120.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And I think if his fitness gets up, then you'll find he'll probably actually improve his performance or the agility outside of that. So.
What do you think about the performance of Van Is it Van Ruin? Van Ruin, right?
Van Rooyen, something
Van
like
Rooyen?
that. Yeah, well, I didn't watch it because I was at the other game.
So I thought he played really great. However, I'm not sure of how secure his job is right now. I mean, Tom McDonald was obviously the big omission there.
I think he's in because he played some second ruck, didn't he?
Nope.
No, didn't he get some hit-outs?
I didn't.
I'm sure he must have got hit-outs.
Did he?
I'm positive.
Oh, no. Yeah, he did, actually. Yeah, a little bit, but it wasn't
I'm
that
only
much.
going off the stats here, so you
Let's
watch
have a
the
look
game.
at his,
You tell me the story, mate.
I'll tell you exactly what his ruck split was. But no, so he would have had a little bit, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, he had 3 hit-outs.
3 hit-outs.
Well, he must have played some ruck. I don't know. They could have been 20 contests. There could have been 3.
Could have been in the
find
back
out
pocket
for
or
you.
something or other.
Yeah,
Shout out to Placey as well. He scored 2,099, which is a little bit more than me, and he dropped 47,000 in rank.
Wow.
Which is crazy because I only dropped 4,000 in rank with a score less than that. So it just shows how maybe competitive, I guess, that mid-range is. I'm not sure where
That's
he started,
unreal.
but that is a huge drop.
That is massive.
He actually did have a little bit more than I thought. So 21% of the ruck contest.
So that's
he had.
probably why they're playing him because I think McDonald's a bit too small to play that second ruck role, and they're not going to throw you like Fritsch can't, not throwing your Ben Brown in there.
Well, so what Melbourne do, and they do this more than anyone else, is that when the ball is in the forward 50, the ruckman doesn't go anywhere near it. So Grundy was sitting outside doing that, they're playing the Max Gawn role, which is obviously sit behind on the that's the side the ball's on, kick behind the play, and just do the spare behind the ball. And
So the Geelong model of like Hawkins playing in the ruck.
Right. Yeah. And then they use Ben Brown or whoever it might be. So in this game that they used 21% for Van Rooyen. Ben Brown had 3% and Harrison Petty had 9%. So they do use those guys to be able to do that. So how much of that was forward line versus around the ground rucking, I'm not sure. I wouldn't be able to tell you. But, yeah, who knows? I think that Tom McDonald has done that in the past. So whether or not they would just not
maybe because
confident
he's
in it.
coming back from that injury
And
and
that's
stuff.
the other thing.
You
Yeah.
don't want some big ruckman
But-
coming into you.
Which is why I'm like, I wouldn't be going early on him.
No,
that's
you
for sure.
can't go early.
Um,
but if he comes out and does the same thing next week against a weaker opposition,
Yep.
well, then they're going to back him in.
Well, yeah, they play... Who do
West
they play?
Coast, don't they?
They played Sydney just now. But
Yeah, and
It's
then
West
West
Coast.
Coast. Yeah, no, they do play West Coast. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. That's why I like
Because they're
Chandler.
draw. Their
So
draw is
I thought that's why I got Chandler, because I said if he does well this week, then he'll still play next week against West Coast, and then those 2 games he should get a price rise. So, anyone looking at Bose, we've spoken about him sort of previously and how bad his role was. Also, someone was also talking about say, hey, Ridley down to Bose. I highly would not recommend doing anything like that at all. If you have too many premiums in a defence line, I would try and look and shift that money elsewhere to a different position rather than going down is pretty much the major
completely agree.
part of it. Any sort of ideas for captains this week, boys, as far as just structuring up and who you're thinking
Well,
of?
it's the easiest one if you have these 2
Dacos?
players. Well, you're potentially there, but it's Laird into Oliver. Like Laird plays the Saturday game, early game against Freo. Madden, who we use, he's playing on the Sunday, and then you've got Oliver playing West Coast after that. So for me, that's as simple as that. Like, yeah, you could think Dacos against the Lions. I guess, again, if you've still got LDU, maybe against the Blues. You know, it depends who your other options in. English has got Richmond on the Saturday afternoon. So, again, I always think your VC, you can take whatever risks you want on it, but you want somebody who's got a huge floor.
Yeah.
I mean, not a huge floor, high ceiling, sorry.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't waste it on guys who are your normal, 110s, 120s are consistent. That's who my backup plan is. So, you could you throw it on anybody who you think could. And Dacos is that sort of player.
He could be. I quite like Bontempelli. Bontempelli against Richmond, I think, is a good one as well.
He does play really well against us normally, and we don't tag.
Laird scored like 148 against Richmond.
Exactly.
So that type of midfielder, after last week where he was influential, could he put it all together? And he's definitely someone who could pull out a 150, 160.
Yeah. But I'd back Laird for me.
Well, if you
Laird
had
into
Clary,
Oliver.
then it would be Laird into Clary.
Yeah,
but if you only have one of them,
yeah.
Or you could go Laird into Bont. They actually play right after each other.
Yep.
There's also that opportunity, so you don't necessarally need to.
Yeah, but if you got Clary, you've got to have Clary as captain.
Or the goat's playing on Tom Green this week, so that's fine.
Well, I think that hurt the GOAT early on because he's only the 5 first quarter because we said that.
Didn't have a matchup, really.
Well, who's he going to? They've got nobody to play on.
Yeah.
And it probably upset them a little bit. Didn't see
Crouch was just had him for speed.
We only saw the scores because obviously we're at Chris's engagement, but I had my wife updating me pretty constantly about it, and she was because I kept asking what's going on with Setterfield.
It's because you weren't there yelling out, kick it to the centre.
Yeah, that's right. That was it. That's it. Am I back next week with the Bombers playing GWS? I think I'm at that game.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll get there. I'll get into it.
Nice.
Oh, definitely. He's one of his old clubs. Get to the GOAT.
Baz says his Cogs to Clary a good move, and I don't think that's great. So you still got to think that regardless of Cogs' bad score, he's still easily a top 6 forward. I think by a long way. Just had a really poor disposal night in terms of efficiency. So I wouldn't be pulling that trigger because you're just basically robbing Peter to pay to Paul, and you just got to find Cogs back in your team at some point. So it's probably not worth it for me.
Yeah, sidewaysing any premium to another one, especially if you need money, it's always, I think, probably not a good idea. Just let the cash generate a little bit and then kind of upgrade from that point as well. And that answers Sammy's as well question.
Sorry, ABC Legacy says Anderson and Marshall to Clary and Grundy. So that doesn't seem like a upgrade. Like Marshall and Grundy are probably the same price, right?
Yeah, same price. Yeah, okay. Grundy for the next 4 weeks has a better, scoring potential.
Yeah.
But we've seen what Marshall can do. Marshall's still playing Sol Ruck.
Yeah.
Obviously, I didn't see the game, but Draper the week before and Phillips for that matter, did a really good job as a defensive ruck on Wits, but also on that the St Kilda midfielders were rucking to the more dominant ruckman. So that could have been the same case this week. Maybe the Bombers did the same thing with Marshall. Maybe they learnt and thought, well, Draper's not going to win these taps. We might just rove straight down to Marshall, and that gives negative points to the rucks there. So,
I think the key thing to do at this point in time is just calm down and just hold. As in, it's like
calm her down.
Calm her down. Calm her down. Is that how he says it? Calm her down. Is that the Italian way?
Should leave that for Chris.
Maltese way. Okay. No, you just need to calm down and take a breath because the time to be aggressive was last round, possibly the one before, depending on what your situation was, and then all the prices have changed. So at this point, you kind of just need to take a moment. There's not really anyone to downgrade to this week anyway. You shouldn't be sidewaysing premiums unless they're injured. So Darcy Cameron, yes. Otherwise, generally no.
Or if you've got enough information, and you know now that like your preseason determinant was this player is going to be a top 10 and he's not anymore. So if
then that would make sense.
So
but
for
you
example,
wouldn't burn
Doherty, right?
You wouldn't burn a booster, yes. This round
depends if you've already done. Boost.
Yeah, if you've already done a boost, then I suggest probably don't boost.
I wouldn't boost if I had already spent a boost. I had planned on using boosters both weeks, or at least I toyed with it and didn't use any. But so let's say for example, Doherty. If you now think that for whatever reason Doherty is now no longer a top 6 defender, which I think is absolute rubbish. That's not my opinion, but if you genuinely think that, then I've got no problems with getting rid of him to get say Clary or get guaranteed bona fide absolute top in their line that even guys like LDU, like I actually don't hate that because I personally think that LDU is shooting up to top 6 status in the midfield.
Ooh.
Which is...
I'd say top 10. What about you?
Yeah, top 10.
Yeah, top 10.
Top 10.
It's like your preseason projections. 128.
So, okay, well, what do you think?
Right.
What do you think he goes?
Everyone's going up in Chris's mind.
No, so I think he genuinely has a chance to go 120 plus.
The only thing going down is you more, Swiss.
Which is obviously a massive improvement on his previous seasons, and we've only really ever seen him average, I think, 111 or 112 in the back end of last year.
Like I think LDU can finish with 120, but that means he's averaging 115 for the rest of the season.
Yes. So that is something to remember. Is that I think we worked it out. It's basically 4 points per game for the rest of the season, based on what he's already averaged. He's already averaged. You're actually picking him up at 4. So let's say you think he's going to average 115. That means that he averages 111 for the rest of the season. So remember that when you're putting him into your team.
Shout out and cheers to you, Julie, as well. Cracked open a drink. I said, can't have too many tonight, kind of like Swizz.
Yep.
Swizz had my double shot last night because I was like, I'm not having a shot. I was driving and you did my shot for me. So I guess the only the premium that you were talking about, so like Brayshaw, I'd probably look at would actually get off him before he drops down to like 500 or less.
Yep, absolutely.
And then there's probably only a couple I'd probably put in that sort of brackets. Otherwise, generally speaking, you try and at least hold and try and preserve some of those trades. Because sometimes it's a bit crazy. You kind of go a week where you just like trade, and then all the prices move, and then you still think about, I miss this person. Do I spend $70,000 more? No.
Like unless this is the week to get Laird.
Yeah.
Like Laird, obviously, these 50s out of his cycle after this week.
So what did he drop to?
He's
dropped 40K.
40K.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you already have Clary, and you have Brayshaw, I'd 100% be trying to get Laird. It's probably only 60K.
Yeah. Well, that's cheap.
You know?
And that's the plan. So you've got Laird this week. If you don't have Clary, for us, that's Clary. And then next week we'll be all talking about Stewart.
Yep.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
you've actually got to kind of plan
on a lowie
a little bit. Nice. So it might be 2 trades, as you said, and not trying to waste that boost, or even if you're putting yourself in a position where you've still got cash left over. Because if you've put yourself and set yourself up right, you might be in that position to get Stewart next week, and you're going to be putting yourself further ahead of everyone else.
One thing I've been thinking of is what I'm going to do with my little extra. So I've actually thought about this already, and I've said, okay, well, this is going to depend on what Stewart is worth next week and scores, but Ridley to Stewart for me makes sense.
100%.
So if I've got, Ridley's worth 500K, Stewart drops down to say 550K, I only need 50 grand to do it. I actually will have 50 grand after trades this week, even if I go get English.
He's not dropping that far anymore, mate.
We'll have to see, hey? What's his break even?
160.
Oh, yeah. So who are Geelong playing this week?
Hawthorn.
Yeah. Probably getting tagged there for
Probably
sure.
getting 160.
Well, no, he could get tagged. Yeah,
I think he gets tagged.
He
Well,
gets
especially
McGinnis
after he dominated
McGinnis
Gold
was
Coast.
Sub this week.
He was.
Was that an injury sub or was that a tactical sub?
I think it was just a sub, but against
was
Geelong.
Sheasel taking him to town?
Yeah, it was.
Well, they had no one to tag.
That's right.
Yeah, well, and that's it. Sorry, man. They're tagging themselves this week.
We're actually winning.
Yeah.
Maybe he was freshening him up.
Ground,
Freshening him up for Stewart. But Geelong have no one.
Yeah, so that's what I'm looking at because I've identified that I think my preseason calculation really is a little bit off. Now, why was it a little bit off? Because they played St Kilda in that preseason game. They dominated the ball in defence because St Kilda didn't have any tools. And I read probably a little bit too much into the amount of marks and switching and everything that was happening because it was a preseason game. Really could just do what he wants. This week he had 14 marks and still only got 96 Supercoach. And that's annoying. Really, really annoying.
Because as I was saying to you, he had, 200 metres gained.
Yeah.
So him and Kelly were just apparently chipping the ball back on the forward because they both had 11 uncontested marks.
What else? I'm going to bring in Sicily into this conversation because I think Sicily's in a similar boat in that his DT to SC ratio in a lot of the games are really, really bad. And the reason for that is he's so uncontested now. So they are looking for him absolutely every chance that they get. But when he gets the ball, he's going a lot sideways and backwards, which is not good for Supercoach scoring. That seems to be their game plan, is they get it to him, his hand, and then instead of going, say, long, they're going to try and take the aggressive approach and either try and get it inside or try and switch the ball around to the other side.
Well, that's why also he's turning it over because he's also the one that they look for to go up the ground.
Yeah, he's taking the risky kicks.
And they don't actually have Mitch Lewis coming up the line to take the bit. So they've got Fergus Green's their main tall at the moment.
Yep.
And he's battling as willfully as he can.
Yep.
But they don't have a big crash and bash centre-half forward that Sicily can kick down to the line. So just turns it over.
I mean, with the amount of disposals that he's had, and the amount of DT that he's scored, he should be averaging like 130, 140 Supercoach right now. So it's a bit disappointing. And I mean, he obviously still got 112 this week, so it's not like he's going bad, but he had 132 DT. Like that is a
150,
negative
160
20
Supercoach game. Like you usually think you're probably 10 or 20 ahead Supercoach to DT.
With a DE of 82%. Which is extremely high. So, again, as I said, he's doing a lot of backwards, a lot of sideways, which does not score well in Supercoach. His meters gained he had 29 disposals and 18 marks. His meters gained was only 344. That's incredibly low for James Sicily. For that amount of 21 kicks, that's incredibly low. So,
300 metres, that's like...
15 metres a kick.
Oh.
Yeah. It's bad because
it's the bare minimum.
Sideways.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing. So it's as I mentioned this.
Sideways to no meters gained.
I mentioned this on Slack. I personally believe with this style over the course of the season, I'm not sure if he maintains this style of gameplay. I'm not sure it's really going to be conducive to say a 115 average like what we've paid for him for. I think it's more like 108, like a slight reduction. So just be wary of that because I don't like the way that the Hawks are playing. It's nothing to do with Sicily himself as a player. He's still going to rack it up. He's still going to get the marks. He's still going to get all that. I'm just a little bit worried that the way that they play is just killing Sicily's potential output. So we'll see how we go. Cool. I think that we've pretty much nailed everything. Is there anything else that you guys wanted to touch on?
Yeah, just as you said before, and you're talking about Sicily, I think we're going to have a lot of reactions on Doherty this week. He's the one, definitely. 39 touches. Like, I look at it and go, what more do you want from a footballer? Yeah, you've got to look more deep on why somebody hasn't scored that well. And, compared to, say, Bont, who was turnover city, sometimes it can just be as little as, like, the conditions. And the conditions were really poor on the weekend. Get Doherty back, have a look at his draw, Marvel games, under the roof. If he's getting 35, 40 possessions in those games, you're going to be missing out on 130s. So that's just my warning to everyone because that's the one everyone's going to jump.
At least he got the ball. Yeah,
that's
at least he's got the ball.
It's not like he's got 20 touches or something like that. It's a different story there.
Yeah, it could have been 150.
39 touches. Like,
normally he's really good with ball in hand as well.
That's why I'm not worried.
No.
And it wasn't just him. You look at the whole game, and everyone should just, like, I use Footy Info, so you see the DT next to the Supercoach, and there's 3 players, Sard, Buckley, and Kelly. Everyone else, DT to Supercoach, is disgusting from that game.
So a couple of little ones here, guys. So Kirsty Simmons asking, what about Warple to LDU? She's got 248K in the bank.
Yeah.
I'd pull that trigger.
Yeah,
100%.
I actually commented on that. That's why I'm actually looking at the chat, bringing
that's why my head's
and
down
I'm
a
bringing it into the live conversation because you guys were horrible at that last time.
Bringing it into the...
Yeah,
I
because
like it.
was like 45 minutes later and you're like, oh, and we got this chat here. And then I'm like, are you serious? And I actually responded live.
Oh, thanks,
Oh,
mate.
thanks, buddy.
And the other one was McRae to Clary for 100K, and I would absolutely
do that
pull
too.
trigger. Yeah.
Yep.
So again, a roll. His role's not there, so just do it. We know that. Let's say potentially he does get the role for a few weeks, and then it's going to switch back. Just get off McRae if you can, because he's not going to be a 120 plus playing player like you think. So.
All the Bulldogs just worry me outside of English and Bont, because just the way Bevo does things.
Yep. Awesome, guys. Brayshaw to Laird with Noah. We've already touched base on that.
Yeah,
and
Brayshaw, get out of your side. I think it's pretty much anyone that's those main ones with the role. Go back and listen. I think it's pretty much the main part we've covered.
And we've sort of, I suppose, to put a full stop on the Darcy Cameron situation, we all agree you got to go up. I don't think you can go to, say, a Grundy or any sideways action there. It's all up to a premium, and it's either English or Wits.
English or Wits if you can get there. Otherwise, expect if you go Grundy, you're going to be having to probably move him on again. So that's going to be a burner into a burner.
And the points that you gain in that time, you might lose over the 2-3 weeks that
that you're waiting. Because unless you're going Grundy,
or it's 2 trades.
Unless you're going from Grundy to then go to, say, Wits or someone, but then you're only making 100 or less thousand for another trade anyway. And if you're trying to go to Gawn, as you said, you have to then wait for Gawn's price to drop, and in that time, Grundy going forward is going to kill his projection, or he might just drop out of 60 and next minute, there goes my cash, and now I can't actually get there.
My only thing that I would say against a little bit of some of that is this. So going to sometimes to go to English, you might say have to do another trade, so therefore it's 2 trades. However, going to Grundy is going to be 2 trades anyway, because you're going to have to trade him to someone. So regardless, it's still 2 trades. The only thing is with English, it's probably 3 trades, because you're probably going to have to trade him out at some point anyway. So it is what it is, guys.
That's it. Hey, Binger, mate, because Binger said he sent me a soundbite. Binger, hop on the Facebook, mate. Chris, keep spinning some shit. I'm going to try and see if I can actually call you and loop you in right now, Binger. So here's your chance. Live on TV, you better get your ass up and onto my socials. You've got yourself 1 minute or 90 seconds to get up, Bing, and give me on Facebook your mobile number, and I will call you in live.
My train leaves in 20 minutes, so we've got about 5 minutes of chat left. So here's your moment, mate.
He said he sent me a message, but I can't see Binger on unless it's personal, on the Supercoach Insider Facebook. Otherwise, I'm going to have to go to Slack, Binger. Come on, mate. Where are you?
The pressure's right on here.
No,
Pokemon rates. Well, what are we rating over here,
Pokemon,
mate?
I've got to sell my account. So I can't play anymore. I don't have enough time to play anymore.
If you're out there too, guys, I was talking to people the other day, even if you have friends or whatever who aren't into Supercoach, if they can subscribe to the channel, that's a huge support to us anyway. So spread the word, and they don't have to watch. Maybe if they do watch, they might get more involved and get involved in the Supercoach and that. But if
put it in the chat, Binger, and then delete it after.
But definitely
he's sweating bullets here.
Yeah, subscribe. Mate, this is your chance. Well,
SDS Supercoach, how does Benfield lose me in draft? Dylan Moore. How dare you have Dylan Moore in
Let's talk more about this.
I actually haven't even really looked at my draft sides because I've got a couple of injuries. I'm like, do I really want the waivers?
So I've landed. So I'm flying in and out of Gold Coast. So I'm the hour train up to Brisbane and watching that game on my phone, and I'm flicking out every 5 minutes to tell Ben, and Dylan Moore's grabbed the ball again. It was brilliant. And then we rock up the Christmas engagement and just, it's happy days. Just now, all I now need is Wingard to play another 11 games. I couldn't care.
If you're listening to this,
Sam Mitchell, if you're listening to this, I don't care if you play Wingard as the sub, because that's not part of Ben and I's arrangement. So
Binger's got stage fright. He wants to do it off the air.
Binger,
hit me your mobile. We'll just give you a call and
Anybody
say,
else
hey.
want to jump on? You've got 2 minutes to jump on.
That way you can get a live. You get a live soundbite.
Live on. Somebody donate money, and we'll bring you on the show.
We've had some questions about Amadi.
Party.
What's up with that? Amadi party?
Amadi party. Grimo was on that. Amadi party.
Horrible.
But this is one of my horror thing. Grimo gets on these weird ideas. See, I think he's sometimes the better version than Abdul, because he actually has the consistent results of jumping on these weird picks and stuff, and they actually always come well.
Are you saying Abdul doesn't have consistent results? Suez, that's really insincere.
No, I love you.
Do you have a biff with Abdul? What's going on here?
Coming from Benny Boy. No, I love him and that. It's just a shame about his microphone stuff. Somebody donate money to Abdul so he can buy some Kmart headphones, so then he can come back on my show again. And that.
Yeah, maybe we need to take some of
I said
our
and that,
some
and
of
that
our
again.
profits.
Sorry, mate. Sorry, Global.
For the lovely
I'm working
month
on
of
it,
March.
mate. I'm working on it.
Being oh mate.
Oh, that is poor.
I don't even have a
That was your
soundbite. I could play
opportunity.
his soundbite through
we
the
should.
stream, but
I want to hear his voice now.
he said he sent it to me, but I don't have it.
really?
Binger, what's
Ah.
going on?
Damn.
It's like the big moment. Chris is
Yeah.
here, smiling, and looking at something else.
Yeah, I'm here in the state. Like this is. This
In
doesn't
Slack,
happen.
I just literally, Binger, I bought
Yeah.
a brand new phone. I got the
Oh,
S23 Ultra. I
Prick didn't
haven't
get us
logged
one.
into Slack yet because it's literally a brand new phone.
Yeah.
I've had it for 3 days. I don't even know if I've got it downloaded, but I don't know if I'm logged in because I think I have to go to the
all the new stuff. and
sign in
login and
using the
stuff like
workplace
that.
URL. I've got to find that stuff.
Yeah,
So,
so that's not going to happen.
all right, look, I think that wraps us up.
does.
Binger, I tried to give you the score assist. I tried to give the handball receive. No one else in the chat's given up their mobile number on the live
We'll definitely
stream.
try to do some more stuff like this, even if it's with me coming in from Melbourne. I practiced the other day of where was I? Out in Moala when I did the one with the swans and all the other birds attacking me from the behind. So now that I know I can do that, I might try to get out in the public, maybe go down the tavern or something and get Grimo down, and we'll try to do a live show or something there. And
Hamstring awareness. I've got his mobile number.
and I'll probably be back up here. I think it's about round 16. That weekend, Brisbane play Richmond, Gold Coast play Collingwood. I think the Broncos play the Dragons. So as long as the AFL and NRL haven't put out the schedule for that weekend, but hopefully they look after us and it's like Thursday into Friday into Saturday, because that'll be a great weekend with these two lads. So
Sounds fantastic, guys. Well, thanks everyone for joining in, and obviously we'll see you with our team podcast during the week, and hit us up on our socials, of course, at SC Insider 100 on Twitter, and on Facebook. Obviously, search for Supercoach Insider if you have any questions. But other than that, I think it's probably going to be mostly a hold trades week and see how we go. Outside of obviously those of us with Darcy, so Darcy Cameron, I should say, not Darcy.
Not Shrek.
But thank you very much, guys, and we will endeavour to be in touch very shortly.
Yes, and we'll do our team pods as well. Check that out as well if you don't know already. Our team pods during the week. And that's it. Talk to you soon.
Ciao for now.
I've given up by now. Thanks, guys. Alrighty, bye.